Mark, welcome to the Leanpub launch video for the book currently known as Psychological Safety for Lean Leaders. I was wondering if you could take a moment to talk to all of us a little bit about your book and what it's about and who it's for, and afterwards we'll talk a little bit about the title.
Yeah, thanks, Len. It's great to be able to work through and publish in progress through the leanpub.com process like I've done before. Yeah, it's a little scary to talk about the book or to even put it out there in people's hands before the title is finally finalized. But it's a book that follows up my previous book called The Mistakes That Make Us. This book takes kind of both a deeper dive into part of what that book covered and more broadly. So The Mistakes That Make Us talked a lot about how do we learn from mistakes in organizations. That requires psychological safety. That means people feel safe to point out mistakes or admit mistakes without punishment. That's how we are able to learn from them. This book, because it's focused more on lean leaders in manufacturing or healthcare or software companies, takes a broader look at the impact of psychological safety. How do we feel safe speaking up about anything, and how that's such an important precondition or foundation for all sorts of lean management practices, both tactical and strategic. So this book is very clearly, I think, aimed at an audience that is trying to figure out lean management for their organization.
Yeah, thanks very much for that great introduction. One of the interesting things that you address kind of at the beginning of the book is that um, the issue of psychological safety is not a soft one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Like, I'm of the age where I listen to podcasts about wars and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And one of the reasons that Russia failed to complete its invasion of Ukraine in the early days was that notoriously, uh, no one kicks problems up the ladder in the Russian
Right.
military. You'll get
Hmm.
beaten or killed or whatever if you do that.
Right.
And so literally the tires don't have enough air in them and they haven't been
Hmm.
rotated on the
Hmm.
armored vehicles and stuff like that. You're not supposed to kick problems up the ladder. So everybody's kind of pretending that they're being hard nosed. And in
Hmm.
fact, what they're doing is being very self-destructive.
Hmm.
And if you're not, if you're running a company, if you're running a healthcare organization, if you're running an automotive manufacturing plant, and you don't have any problems, you do. You've
Yeah.
got a very
Right.
big one, which is you don't know what your problems are.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about not just this book, but like your other book and all of your work, which addresses this issue.
Yeah. It's true if you're running a country, which as an American, I will just give a bit of a wink and a nod to when you have leaders that also don't want to hear bad news when they shoot the messenger. That's bad. It's bad in organizations, and I try to highlight in the book some positive examples of, like, one of them being Larry Culp, the CEO of GE Aerospace, as I heard him say at a lean conference a couple years back. When he became CEO of GE Aerospace, he quickly recognized that there was what he called a shoot the messenger culture. Unlike Russia, maybe not literally shooting or pushing someone out of a window, unfortunately. But he realized that one of the things that he had to do to lead a lean transformation at GE Aerospace, as he said, was to encourage people. I want to hear the bad news. I want to hear it fast. And then, as he said, what really matters then as a leader is how you react to that bad news. Because if you're new, people might give you a try. Oh, the boss says they want bad news. And then if you get chewed out or punished or fired or demoted, the word's going to spread that, well, no, he said he wants bad news, but he really doesn't. So Larry Culp makes a great point that you need to not only encourage people to speak up, you need to reward them quite actively when they do so. That leads, then to the hard benefits. I appreciate you pointing out this isn't just quote unquote soft stuff. There's a lot of research that proves the hard benefits that organizations with higher levels of psychological safety improve more, they innovate more, they're more agile and responsive, and they perform better. So
Yeah.
there really is that hard business case. We could say the same thing about organizations that practice lean management, but organizations that try to use or copy lean tools that work well in a high psychological safety environment like Toyota is demonstrated to be. Those systems fail when people get punished for speaking up.
You have a note at the beginning of the book on national cultures.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to sort of just ask you to talk a little bit about that. I find that just fascinating about how cultures differ or are the same with respect to these kinds of issues.
Well, there's research that, I stand on the shoulders of some giants in this field. Amy Edmondson and her research that showed the the hard benefits of psychological safety and healthcare and other environments. Google's work on this front was very much inspired and informed by Amy Edmondson's work. And then there's also Timothy R. Clark, who's written a great book called The Four Stages of Psychological Safety. He's done research across not only different industries, but across different countries. And the connection between psychological safety and performance is clear. Now, there are some cultures, ironically, like some Asian cultures, including Japan, where the norm is extremely hierarchical, seniority-based organizations, as they say in Japan. The tall blade of grass gets mowed. And to think that Toyota created an environment where people feel safe enough to reach up and pull an andon cord when they see a problem, when they've made a mistake, that they've built this culture, we have to give credit to Toyota because, again, that is not the default Japanese business culture. It's not easy or automatic because they're Japanese. Toyota has created, a really, I think, a special culture, and they've made that work in factories, including the U.S., Canada, South America, Europe, other countries. So it's really more about how do leaders lead than it is about, some countries are more innovative, or some countries people tend to speak up more than others. It's really more about creating the culture in your workplace.
Um, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about today is the title, which I know is in flux, and it's sort of interesting. We decided to go
Yeah,
ahead with the launch video anyway, because it's
yeah,
like I think that's a fascinating thing, and anybody watching who might learn, oh, Leanpub books can be written in progress or published in progress, and you can change them,
yeah,
and including the title.
yeah.
So what are some of the titles that you're considering?
Yeah, and I think there's pros and cons. I mean, you get advice out there about, you think about what phrases are people searching for. You got to think about SEO, not only on Google, but Amazon as a primary search engine for books as well. There's a couple phrases that have sort of, that bubble up sometimes through the writing process. One that I'm considering, and some people have liked, is more conceptual, called the silence tax. That there's a tax negative economic impact on organizations where people stay silent because they're afraid or they think it's just not worth it to speak up. And then, the subtitle would have to be much more straightforward around what the book is about. And then, going back to the andon cord, there's one possible title, The Cord That Wasn't Pulled. That'll mean something, I think, to the lean audience, but it was this question then of, even with a more descriptive subtitle, like, do you go really straightforward and specific? Do you go more conceptual? There are some people that say, like, oh, your book title should create a little intrigue. The cord that wasn't pulled. What does that mean? I'm afraid the silence tax might sound a little too much like an economics or finance book or government book because it has the word tax. But create intrigue and then have a subtitle that is much more, straightforward about making clear it's a management book, or it's about culture, it's about improvement. Uh, so I don't know. Like, it's
Well,
yeah. There are I keep sleeping on it. Maybe someday I'll wake up and feel strongly, or some other phrase will come out
yeah, well,
to be determined.
thanks for sharing those options and the reasons that they're there's sort of like it's it's kind of there's different approaches to like what you're doing as opposed, and like even within those approaches there might be different titles to choose. But that's fascinating. Create intrigue. Does it become too abstract and not close enough
Yeah.
to my area? It's a really interesting challenge, and Thank you for sharing the moment that you're in and what that's like. And I'm sure everyone's going to be excited to see what you choose in the end.
Well, I hope so. And I'm open to input and feedback on that, especially from early readers who are able to give feedback. I've gotten feedback from one reader already, which is great. But the one thing I want to ask you, Len, I saw you kind of backed off. You were thinking deeply about the silence tax, which I
Yeah.
couldn't tell. Did that mean that's really intriguing, or like, oh God, that sounds terrible?
Yes. The reason, so where my mind was going there is that if you're trying to get through to a certain kind of person,
Hmm.
invoking a problem, describing a problem as a tax
Hmm.
is the right way to go. If you know, maybe like, for example, I'm just thinking like the person with, well, you've got Bob, the character at the beginning of your book, who I think I remember hearing about years ago when you were
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
podcast,
a real person, but
a
boy,
real
he was a
person
character.
who's
Yeah.
like, he's the kind of guy who's like, you need to beat them. I can't do a Chicago accent, but like, you need to beat them down, beat them down, beat them down. He actually
Yeah.
said that literally until they do
That
what you tell them.
that was a little New York, but
And
okay.
okay, sorry, yeah. At least I didn't go Australian like I sometimes do. But anyway, but then he
Yeah.
later on complains, why doesn't anybody take any initiative around here?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like,
Like,
I
come on. Oh,
yeah, but like if that is the if it's the if that is the kind of person you're trying to get through to, I hope this doesn't sound too insulting,
well,
but
that,
invoking a problem by
yeah.
describing a problem as a tax might actually be the right way to go.
I think somebody like that isn't real interested in, doesn't see the need for professional or personal development and might not be reaching out to buy books like this.
That's
But,
a good point.
I did a survey on LinkedIn, and that's not a scientific survey. People liked the two conceptual options more than the straightforward psychological safety for lean leaders. I gotta keep
Well,
sleeping on it.
yeah, no, keep sleeping on, but but like for anyone watching, that's exactly the right thing to do. Put your email address in the beginning of the book. Ask people
Yep.
for feedback. Go out on LinkedIn or wherever and get surveys. The book, which is currently 60% complete, will one day be 100% complete and may well have a different title, but it's currently Psychological Safety for Lean Leaders. If you buy it on Leanpub, you'll get all the updates, including if
Hmm.
the title's changed for free in the future. So thank you very much, Mark, for doing this launch video today.
Well, thank you, Len, and thanks to everybody at Leanpub.